If you can you get a backstory behind it? Because I mean, to see you bounce back from that, man,
Yeah,
that's inspiring.
yeah. Yeah, I I was trying to be smart and invest in real estate, but I invested it in the wrong state. It was Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada. Not that anything's bad wrong with it, but I'm just saying at that time, when the market crashed in 2008, I had a bunch of real estate there. And instead of just letting it go off top, I'm trying to keep it. So I'm going into savings, going into savings, going into savings. Like, no, I got to keep this property because we could pass this down to the kids. And you hear real estate, you always hear that real estate is king, and you can amass wealth. I didn't do that, and at the same time, uh, through the bank, we were doing it. It was this thing called a loan modification. So you go through that process, and we were going through that process, kept having to get paperwork, do this, do that, and it was a game because the bank ended up getting sued at
He
one
did have his own show called One on One. That is correct.
point because
I see he got on the Air King, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's a Rolex Air King. I'm pretty sure that that's an Air King. You get into timepieces, you start being able to recognize all of this stuff.
they did that with a lot of people, but you're like giving paperwork. Oh, we didn't get this, we didn't get that. You got to give them this, give them that, and it just happened that. And I remember I had a nice check come in, and I was like, oh man, I'm just gonna go ahead and pay this back mortgage. And the bank at that time, we were already in the process, and they said, look, if you do that, we can't help you because the loan modification is going to restructure your loan so that now it's lower. So we're like, okay, cool. And they said, but you have to be, the trick was you have to be 3 months behind. So you're like, okay.
That is true. He is telling 100% truth. Before the banks would ever have a conversation with a lot of people back in 2008, and I try to tell people this all the time, that 2008, I hate when people keep trying to compare 2025, 2024. Man, this must be similar to 2008. Nothing was like 2008. Nothing was like 2008. 2008 was like nothing you can ever imagine for those of y'all that was not old enough to actually experience it as a grown full adult out on your own trying to figure it out. Nothing and no one was like 2008. 2008 was straight up gnashing of the teeth. You know how they like tell biblical stories of famine in the land? That was 08. When I see people sitting here in their privilege saying, oh my God, I make $120,000 a year and everything is so unaffordable, I just laugh at them and I'd be like, what's wrong with these people? How do we get to this point? How do we get to the point to where people are sitting here telling us that they make $120,000 a year and they're struggling? Oh my God, they're struggling. Oh wait, was like the apocalypse. The world might as well was ending. There were people that were killing themselves because they were going broke. Because they had lost everything. Because their home, they lost everything. There were people that were literally offing themselves because they had lost everything. Listen, the 2000s through 2010, that decade, if that wasn't a learning lesson, if people didn't catch the wave, people that went through that, that's going through this, that's going through stuff still again today, I'd be confused. Like, nigga, you didn't learn a lesson? Because in the Great Depression, it then started a savings boom and everybody started investing differently and they started thinking differently about their lives versus just living La Vida Loca. How do you go through 2008 as a grown adult and not learn a lesson and make the adjustments and be winning later? So I feel him. 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 I feel him.
So now you go, okay, well, I'll pay these bills over here.
And he was right. You had to be, it's similar to a car, right? A lot of times they won't do anything or make any loan modifications back then unless they seen you were actually fully behind by 3 months, that you were approaching foreclosure. Then you was able to submit it. But a lot of times they finessed you out of your property. I'm pretty sure that he's probably going to talk about
it. Get a loan modification. It's going to be lower. So we'll be good. Not. We missed the, I guess something that was missed that morning, and it went to sale. I'm driving to an audition, and wifey calls me, and she's crying like, yo, they're here. They are telling us we got to get out. I'm like, what? I turn around, I go back. Sheriff is there, and with the real estate company or whatever who bought it, making sure we get out. It was crazy. Everything just happened so fast. They tell you got 5 minutes to put all your shit in a bag.
That's crazy.
And it was just like, it was slow motion. The kids were at school. They were little, so we were happy about that.
Yep, same for me. My daughter was born in 2008, so she was a baby. You know the thing that stuck with me about 08? Let me tell you the thing that stuck with me about 08. I never told y'all. I don't know if I ever told y'all this. When I was getting my cars taken, right? Because I had a bunch of cars. I had a Trailblazer SS. I had a bunch of cars, right? Because I was balling and I was making a lot of money, and then everything just it seemed like the rug just got pulled under your feet and there was nothing available in real life. I remember it had to be summer, fall, something like that of 08. And my daughter was born in February, so she was a baby. She was a baby. And I remember they were trying to repossess my cars, but my brother had blocked in the cars so that they couldn't actually get in the driveway and they couldn't get into the garage. But let me tell you how evil that they were, right? They were so they wanted to embarrass me. So what they did was they did it after working hours where everybody was home. And so you did hear about, yeah, I did tell you this. And they were going around all of the windows of the house, and it was flashing the lights, and it was like knocking on the windows. Hey, yeah, no, we need the cars. We need the cars. And I remember my daughter was crying. I remember my daughter, and obviously she was a baby, so she was like scared because people was beating on the windows and stuff. And I remember my daughter was sitting there crying, just uncontrollably, because she was just scared. She was just crying. And I was just like, that night, like that broke me, because I always had made up in my mind that I was going to make sure that my daughter was taken care of and that she would never suffer and go through some of the things that I went through when I was a little kid. That gave me that moment right there, that night. That was the difference. That was the switch that turned on for me. And when people say to me today, Anton, why do you work so hard? Why don't you take a vacation? Why are you always trying to build homes? Why are you only purchasing things cash and you're not doing no financing? Why don't you sleep sometimes? Why are you so dedicated to winning? Why are you always working this, doing this and this? Why are you consumed with it? Why don't you care about this and all of that? It's because of that night. That day and that night, it changed me forever. It changed me forever. And I stopped apologizing. I stopped being a nice guy. I stopped focusing on what everybody else thought. I genuinely said, I truly don't give a fuck no more. The only thing that I made up in my mind is that I don't care who here. I don't care who there. My daughter will never, ever, ever remember this moment. And she'll never live to see the day that should never be able to experience this. I never, from that day forward, I don't care how much money I got. I don't care how successful I become. I don't care how many subscribers that I get. Nothing. And whenever I start to feel like, man, I'm going through a lot, or this life event is happening, or if I feel like, too many people is coming at you or whatever in my career previously, I always remembered that moment and I wrote it down. When I finally turned my cars in for them to get repossessed, I took a picture of it. I took a picture of them repossessing my car. And I made sure that I kept that in my portfolio. Because I'll always go back to that picture and I'm like, A, it can never get worse than it was right here. And B, I remember where I came from and I remember why I'm doing this shit, and it's over for you niggas. It switched. It was like something that cut on in my life, and it was just like, all right, bet. I just turned into a straight up beast. It just changed my perspective. It changed my life. And I'm forever thankful that they did that to me, because I'm still coming for everything. I still got that hunger in me.
We ended up in a hotel. A friend of ours who was a pastor here, was our pastor here back then. He, put his credit card up for the first couple of days.
Somebody says, oh, now they evil because you should have paid your bills. Now, of course, you're going to get a nigga that got his blue collar worker stuff on. And imagine a nigga that don't have shit that got his blue collar stuff on, talking stuff to me that's his name is standing on business. No, they wasn't evil because I couldn't pay my bills. They were evil because they was knocking on my windows, and I got a crack on my window that we had to wind up repairing that had nothing to do with them repossessing the car. But it's okay because it actually turned me into a monster. My nigga, you should go ahead and get to work. Make sure you're not late, and make sure you punch in on time before I buy the shit that you work at. Where you work at? Let me see this shit. Okay, I can see the logo. I can enhance that. Get to work, nigga. Get to work, big dog. Let's continue.
Then we were in a hotel. We would shout out to the Embassy Suites for that free breakfast and waffles. The Embassy Suites, and people probably say, but that's still nice. I mean, I'm just saying, we was in a hotel. I was fine. I'm like, listen, we got a roof over our head. We got some food. We good. We were homeless in the sense of our home was taken in that sense, not because there are way worse cases than what we went through. But it was still traumatic. And then being public figures, you go through that, and which is why we ended up doing a reality show, because we just wanted to show that.
Listen, big dog. Here's the thing. Nobody dodged accountability at all. That's the reason why I am great. Nobody said that I shouldn't have had my cars repossessed. Nobody said that I shouldn't have had to suffer. That's not taking accountability. But I think that people, and see, also, this is another thing that y'all got to watch out for, because a lot of times people listen to you hold other people accountable, and they're waiting for you to fall. They want something to happen. They want you to, oh man, see, he said this, whatever. No, nobody didn't take accountability. That's why I'm rich and you poor as fuck. That's the difference. That's why I'm rich. Whatever the car was that they took, I made sure I bought a watch that cost the same amount. And that's why I got so many Rolex watches, because everything that I took, I replaced it in gold. I'm sharing a moment because men have to, at some point, turn on a switch and say, all right, enough with the bullshit. Now we about to take over the world. And if you don't have that moment in your life, if you don't have that thing that you suffer from, if you don't eventually suffer in some way, shape, or form, then you will never be great. Who's people that literally off themselves in 08?
Man, we go through stuff too. Like our job is just different than yours, but we go through the same stuff. And they took the house, but the kids never missed a beat. They didn't really know what was up until later. We told them, or they figured it out. But yeah, we were going for a loan modification. It wasn't being irresponsible. They said, you got to be either 3 or 4 months behind. That's the only way we can help you and modify your loan. So they're like, okay, cool. And then the thing is, they let your mortgage, build up. And then all of a sudden, oh, we don't have your paperwork. Oh, this, oh, that.
Yeah, that was a finesse.
Back then, you were faxing stuff. It wasn't no email. It wasn't emailing documents like that. You had to fax it. And yeah, that's what happened, man. That's what happened. But we just kept going. And we had, again, a lot of people, a lot of friends who came through and really helped, whether it was groceries, whether it was helping with the kids, in-laws, we had so many people help, man. So many people help. So I'll never forget that or take that for granted. That's when you see really who's rocking with you, who's there for you.
I think that it looks like he's got himself, and he's doing well and stuff now. And that's the other part of this. That's the other part of this, is that a lot of times, and this is for the guys, a lot of times, you'll go through things and you'll feel like it's the end of the world, or you'll feel like, hey man, I lost everything. People laughing at me. I'm embarrassed. The neighbors know I lost my stuff, or whatever, so on and so forth. Man, listen, bro. Nigga, you 1 year, 6 months to a year away from recovering from everything and getting back on top of the world. It's gonna pass. It's going to pass. You ain't got to have suicidal thoughts. You don't have to think that the world is over. You're going through it to prepare you for something much, much bigger. And you got to get that callus on your skin. You got to take that as a learning lesson. You got to have that as an opportunity to grow from anything that you didn't suffer through, whether it was self-inflicted or if it wasn't self-inflicted, if it was your fault or it wasn't your fault. You have to own that shit. It's the only way to grow, is you got to own it. You literally have to own anything that happens to you and understand that it's always going to be another opportunity that come along. But are you going to be ready for it when it comes the next time? Are you going to be ready for it now that you learned the lesson? And that's what I'm saying. When I see people that went through 2008 and they going through the same shit in 2025, it's like, wait a minute. It's one thing to suffer, but it's another thing to suffer from the same thing over and over again. I'm not going to suffer from the same thing. If I'm going to go through something, it's going to be something new. But it was different back then. It was very, very different back then, man. Straight up. It was way different right back then. You used to think the world was over when you lost a job back then. I know, because we all go through it. But then when you wake up in the morning, you got to turn into a monster. When you wake up in the morning, you got to turn into a monster. And that lesson still pushes me and motivates me today. And it's so funny when I hear people that say, oh man, you grew up privileged and all of this. You don't know shit about shit.